the sound of the police in my hood. That's the sound of the police in my hood. That's the sound of the police in my hood. That's the sound of the police in my hood. That's the sound of the police in my hood.
What's up, y'all? And welcome back to the greatest show in the universe, Three Black Heathen Show, with my hosts, me, myself, and Braithius, Dragonaut Silvers, and Nate Brody. Tonight, we got several topics we're going to talk about. One is y'all see what's the 411 as far as current events. And we're going to be talking Christianity with G-Con. So, but right now, I think I'm going to pass this over to Nate. And as y'all know, we on CP time. So please excuse the extra minutes. And we starting at 9 this week because we had some issues come up. But y'all know we on CPT time, color people time, for those who still don't know what the hell that means. But yes, we are here and we are live. And Nate, what do we want to do first, my man? What exactly did we want to show first?
Oh yes, a special guest tonight, folks. Trojan condoms. Please don't have a baggy condom. If your condom is baggy, you got problems. No. G-Con has joined us tonight, folks. We said that we were going to bring some Christians on here, and like I said, like Nate said, like Empress said, we ain't bringing just any Christian on here or any person claiming that they're Christian. We're bringing somebody here who can actually hold a conversation, who's actually interesting to listen to, and somebody that I fucks with. So we're going to bring him in a little bit, folks. But if you're not familiar with G Consciousness, you probably ain't been watching my channel. You probably not even been paying attention. But his link to his channel is in the description. He busts down Black Hebrew Israelites. If y'all are wondering where these people are coming from, how they interpret the weird shit that they interpret, why they dress like Black Power Rangers, G-Con's channel is a channel that lets you know all the answers to those questions, because trust me, I'm always curious as to why they tear up the mama's bed sheets and curtains and shower curtains to make these outfits. So there you go.
Okay, hey Nate, give me a sound check, because people in the chat saying they can't hear you.
No, sound check 1 2. I saw I had the mixer off, but I'm good now.
Okay, cool.
they should be able to hear.
Before we go any further, too, we got to shout out one of our creators, Monty. And by the way, y'all, Monty, along with one of my producers, Hannibal, who is third part of the MF team, producer team, they're going to start their own show. They're going to have their own show called the Monty and Hannibal Show, talking about hip-hop music and all of the type of world events. So shout out to Monty and Hannibal. And y'all make sure y'all subscribe to the channel. We're gonna give y'all more information on actually when Monty, the creator, and Hannibal is gonna do that show. So back over you, Nate Drag.
Sorry. So now let me bring on my man G-Con. G-Con.
Yeah, we am good.
Say hello to the people out there.
What's going on with the family out there? I appreciate you brothers for having me to come on. Can you guys hear me? Can I be heard?
You can be heard. You're live. We're live right now.
Cool.
So let's start it off. We were talking about before we get into the whole thing. Let's start it off with the Colin Kaepernick scenario. So, Emperor, let us know what's going on with Colin Kaepernick and the Nike ad. Give the people some background.
Well, for the most part, I'm sure a lot of y'all, if y'all ain't been sleeping up under the rock, man, y'all been keeping up with Nike. Nike, you know, big corporation, man. They actually, for years, man, basically since the 70s, you know, been backing people who actually stood their ground. As far as those in so-called, you know, civil rights movement and so forth. But right now, man, we're getting this big backlash over some tennis shoes. And I think it's contradictory for these particular Americans, mostly white, older Americans, who actually, I know a few of y'all have seen them burn Nikes on video. One guy almost burnt up his whole front yard just to burn a pair of Nikes, just showing hatred, telling people, you know, they want to try to ban against Nike and do this. So it's really ignorance, man, against a man who actually never disrespected the flag, but actually was pushed on by veterans who actually told him, hey, man, you're doing a good job. Black and white veterans, actually, who was back in Colin Kaepernick. But the thing is this, man, I think what people, we actually allowed the stupid POTUS called Donald Trump, President Trump, we actually allowed him to snatch the narrative from what it really stood for. And that's a problem. When we allow these ignorant people to snatch the narrative and what he actually was trying to represent. So when we look at Colin Kaepernick and we look at the American flag, we have to make this clear, man. The American flag does not belong to the military. It doesn't belong to any particular group. It belongs to the people of this country. So, you know, when we let Donald Trump and all these other people, these other ridiculous radical right-wingers snatch the narrative, you know, we did a bad thing ourselves and allowed them to do that. So now it's got all the way to the point where Nike want to, you know, do their thing. And some people are trying to switch the narrative of that. But, you know, Nike just doing it for money. Of course, Nike's doing it for money. That's what they do. This is a capitalistic country. It's a company that they're trying to make money. They know this will make money. But this is the thing. Nike also understands where their base is at. Believe me, Nike had people, all type of lawyers, all type of people in the think tank around the table before they did this. So they understand the demographics first. They understand profit margin. They understand, like I said, demographics, and they understand who supports them. So I applaud Nike for it. I think those people who are actually burning Nikes, who are trying to ban Nike, I think they should just take an L on this one, because that's basically what they're doing. They're taking an L, and it's pathetic.
But what do you say to the people? Like, I was listening to the radio, I think on Friday when this came out, and there was some people who came on who said straight up, black people who was like, yo, they just pandering. He was like, you know, they not really for the cause. They know most of the people who buying their shoes happens to be black people. And this isn't really something unique. They just know that the people who out there voting for Trump doing all that ain't the people buying the $200 sneakers. So this isn't really anything from their heart, but this is just something. This is a marketing stunt. You know what I'm saying?
Once again, I basically just answered that. I said this is a corporation who's about making money. If I own Nike, I would do the same thing. But see, this is the thing. This is the thing about, but I'm glad you mentioned that, now. I'm glad you asked that question about certain black people who think like this. I remember when Black Panther came out, and you know, this is sad to say. I hate to smash on my people like this, but y'all know we got to keep it real, and this ain't even the keep it real section yet, Nate. I remember when Black Panther came out, you seen all these hype so-called black conscious fools all on social media. Oh, the white man is one gonna make the movie. The black man, it's just black actors. They using us. They using our talent. The white man created the Black Panther character, and Marvel is ran by Disney, and they gonna get all the money. The black communities ain't gonna get nothing out of Black Panther. All of this BS. So I said this to say this. Certain black people ain't gonna be satisfied for nothing. Until black people create their own, okay? Get their own movie studios, their own tennis shoes, and their own anything, you really should just be quiet. And I mentioned this last week. These same black people who are always complaining about silly things like this are the same black people who are using Facebook, who was created by Mark Zuckerberg, using Instagram, using all these different things to preach this BS way of thinking, this fake pro, because you know the so-called pro-black conscious community is not like it was when we was coming up, man. It's totally different from the 70s and the 80s and early 90s. It's a whole nother stupid element that's inside this particular community now. But I mean, only thing you can say to people like that is Nike is a company for making money. What else are they supposed to do? I mean, what else are they supposed to do? But not only, and think about this, Nate.
Well, hold on. Before you go into that, you gotta, I honestly agree with what you're saying, but then I do see the other side because there's a sincerity to this thing. He's out there protesting black lives, like police are killing black men, and that's why he's doing the protest. So for a company to say, "Oh, we can take advantage of this by getting some money, let's throw him on the thing, and we can eat too." It just the sincerity piece. Don't get me wrong. They gotta eat, and they're gonna do this to eat, and they're gonna eat well. But the sincerity seems to be the piece that cats have a problem with. Not the fact that they're doing it, but for the reasons why they're doing it. You know what I mean?
Well, okay, but once again, we can't let these dummies snatch the narrative. There's nothing wrong with this being commercialized. Okay, and I'm gonna tell you why. If you go back to the 70s, excuse me, the 60s, with Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King was having his dinner. They was having his dinner in the state capitol. Coca-Cola got involved. Coca-Cola actually got involved because at first Coca-Cola was like, look, we're not going to have no segregated dinner. He said, if y'all don't want to come in and do this, then Coca-Cola, we back in the civil rights movement. This is what Coca-Cola did. Coca-Cola has always done this. Nike has always done this. With Sabrina, with Don Lemon, all these companies are not new to this. Now, if your excuse is that, well, they're taking a real situation and they actually trying to make money off of it. Okay, good. Because one thing I can say about that, Nike's gonna sell anyway. And you know what you're doing with that, Nate? You're actually pushing the issue. You're putting on a bigger platform and you're showing the rest of America that, hey, we're behind this, regardless of what you think our bottom line is gonna be. We're behind this. Those same people that you're talking about complaining about it, what are they doing? What are they doing for the issue? A lot of those same people are probably still watching football. They probably watch football game today. They probably watched the first season of Thursday Night Football. I guarantee you, some same people that are talking, the ones you're hearing, you can look on their page and they talking about a game, an NFL game that they watch. The same ones that was talking about protesting a couple of years ago. So we can't listen to these people. We got to get the bigger picture out of it. You know what I mean? Which I think is, like I said, I applaud Nike for actually putting it on a bigger platform because Nike is a big corporation. So wonderful. I think it's wonderful.
No, I've been thinking about because I wrote a post, like it was like 8 to 9 paragraphs on Facebook in a response to this lady who she had some sentimental value to some Nike hat. Her husband was a police officer, and this sweat stained, bent up hat was the last thing that she had to remember him. And so because Nike decided to make Colin Kaepernick the face of the company, it has tarnished this sentimental item. And it was insensitive because, she attached some value to this particular Nike hat. And I thought it was a callous statement for her to state that, well, obviously he has so much contempt for police. No, and this goes to the narrative issue. He has contempt for police brutality. He has not said fuck all the police. And there were some other statements that she had made. Again, I am paraphrasing, but one of the things that I do notice, especially when this is happening, is that there's always this nebulous concept of the perfect protester, the perfect form of social change. There's some idyllic image that people have in their head about how things are supposed to happen in society. And it's rather than me just saying, well, you know what, let me just put my support behind whoever because they agree with the goals that I agree with. Well, I'm not going to do that. I'm not, like I said, I'm not a huge fan of Black Lives Matter for various reasons, but I understand the goals that they're trying to make. And I understand the goals that Nike's trying to make, which is $1. I understand the goals that Colin Kaepernick and others are trying to make too.
Now, hold on. I've heard you guys say that a couple of times about Black Lives Matter, both you and Imp. And don't get me wrong. I do feel like Black Lives Matter have issues. Number one is the leadership, the lack of leadership. It's just kind of like a whole bunch of different groups and everybody does their kind of own thing and, that's piece of it. But then I think there's a second piece to Black Lives Matter, which is the police fight and racial injustice. The young people trying to get out there and saying that we need to stop this. So when we talk about Black Lives Matter, are we talking about are we talking about just the whole thing as an idea, or are we talking about certain aspects of it that we don't agree with?
the organization itself, or I guess the lack of organization is what I have a problem with. I am not going to sit here and pretend, like I said earlier, that there's this idyllic image about how social change is supposed to happen. There was, and I wish I could find this study, but there was a I guess a cumulative study of all of the legal and illegal aspects of the civil rights movement and how they all contributed to its success. Because there's this idea somewhere that, or notion that all the things that happen in any form of social change have to be legal in order for it to be effective. That's demonstrably fucking false. Now, that's not a promotion or a prescription for people to go and do illegal things to cause change, but that's just a simple fact. So when I say that I'm not a fan of the organization, I don't like any decentralized organization. Doesn't matter what the goals are, but I understand that when history is written about, 50, 100 years down the line, Black Lives Matter is going to be mentioned, regardless of what any one of us think, because they are the figurehead in this generation of social change. Just like NWA will be mentioned, fuck the police. So I do think that it needs to be stated that just not liking someone because, well, or organization because, well, I don't like their methods. Well, are their methods effective? For one, if you don't like them because it's illegal, well, you know what? We can argue the legality of it, but not everything illegal is moral, and vice versa, as we've seen in history.
No, I totally agree with you guys. I'm just listening in.
I gotta unmute myself for a second. So I'm gonna play the commercial right now so you guys can see what I'm talking about. And now you know what the one thing I'm very happy for you guys, for people in the chat who don't know. On Wednesday, was it Tuesday or Wednesday? Tuesday we were on the what's it called? What show were we on again?
Dollars, yeah. The Geeks.
Yeah, the Geeks. And it was funny because they were having so much technical problems, and I was like, damn, I'm not the only one. Because I was like, at first, I was like, damn, I just get this shit fucked up. But they was having
They had Skype though, man. It was like, shit, I'm glad we didn't use Skype.
Yeah, Skype going down. Skype going down, man.
Skype is fucking them up, yeah. So hold on, let's play this video and let's see what's up.
People say your dreams are crazy. If they laugh at what you think you can do. Good. Stay that way. Because what non-believers fail to understand is that calling a dream crazy is not an insult. It's a compliment. Don't try to be the fastest runner in your school or the fastest in the world. Be the fastest ever. Don't picture yourself wearing OBJ's jersey. Picture OBJ wearing yours. Don't settle for homecoming queen or linebacker. Do both. Lose 120 pounds and become an Ironman after beating a brain tumor. Don't believe you have to be like anybody to be somebody. If you're born a refugee, don't let it stop you from playing soccer for the national team at age 16. Don't become the best basketball player on the planet. Be bigger than basketball. Believe in something, even if it means sacrificing everything. When they talk about the greatest team in the history of the sport, make sure it's your team. If you have only one hand, don't just watch football, play it at the highest level. And if you're a girl from Compton, don't just become a tennis player. Become the greatest athlete ever. Yeah, that's more like it. So don't ask if your dreams are crazy. Ask if they're crazy enough.
That is a pretty decent ad. I kind of liked it.
Yeah, no, it's visually beautiful. I love the I won't say collage. I love the compilation of different people, you know, persevering over adversity. It rings very true in my own life. So that's why I connect to it. And so it's it's interesting that this has drawn so much ire towards folks, but and a lot of us say, okay, well, you know what? I think I saw a meme about this. It was so funny. I was thinking about it. Uh, he hasn't protested shit in the NFL for I think about 2 years now, and people are mad. People are mad for veterans, even though this has been stated over and over again. Veterans are the one who told him that no, you should kneel. You know that you're well within your right to kneel. But I don't think that his right to kneel is being disputed. I think it's because people are offended that he have the audacity to do that, even though he has the right to. And so, as somebody who has defended that right, yes, you know, you have. It's funny. It's always the people too. As far as I've seen, the people who talk about others being offended, now they're offended by this. If you are upset that people express the rights that they're given, then that's on you. You can be fully offended by it, but then demanding that other people just kowtow to your whim because you're offended, well, that's not an argument. The fact that they spend so much time talking about how offended they are and not actually addressing the issue is why it persists. Because I remember back when Black Lives Matter first got started, folks were blocking roads, folks were having these demonstrations, and there are all these stories about people, so much violence with these protests. And then I do remember certain individuals that I work with, they were bemoaning the actions of what they consider radicals. And so now you have somebody who is protesting peacefully, who is not actually making much of a stir at all, other than the attention that people are giving him. And so now that's unacceptable. So you can't protest peacefully now because that offends people.
Well, hold on.
So
Can I just make a point on that point particularly? Yeah. Now, conservatives usually say, well, you don't have the right to protest at your job. Right now, if you was working for McDonald's or IBM or wherever, and you started getting down and kneeling and protesting, they would say, well, guess what? You fired and get off the property. Because that right is a right against government intrusion. The government, you can protest against the government. So what do you say about those right-wingers that says, yes, even though he was protesting, we don't have to hear it because we are protesting the NFL because he doesn't have the right to kneel with the NFL. And as an example, they'll say, look at the NBA. They don't have the right to kneel at the NBA because they collectively bargain that everybody's got to stand.
Well, so that's the rules for that particular organization. I wouldn't argue that every organization has those same type of rules, but within that, no, it is completely voluntary that someone says the pledge and to render the proper salutes. There's only a few professions that I can think of in my previous profession where it is obligatory. So the second that they start demanding, well, no, you have to. Now that's where it crosses the line.
So that's not democracy anymore.
No, and so if we're going to argue the capitalization of something, I do love this blind eye that's being turned to the capitalization of patriotism, because the U.S. government pays the NFL for those patriotic moments. It's not something that the NFL has always done. They get paid for it. It's promotion for the armed forces to recruit more people. So if someone doesn't like the idea of us going to war, then they should sit down. I'm telling you, as someone who's a former armed service member, if you don't like the idea of people going to other people's countries and killing folks, then don't fucking stand for the pledge. You are well within your right to do that. And fuck people if they're offended. That's because you have the right to do that. The same people that you don't agree with going over to the countries are the ones that defending that right, ironically enough. So that is something that's interesting. That's something that's always interesting to me, because people want to talk about having standing back and being as objective as they can. Well, that includes having all the facts. That includes going, let me take a step back. Let me actually consider what the fuck I'm saying here. If I am more offended that people have the audacity to protest a really big issue right now, a hot button controversial topic, then maybe, just maybe, we should actually address it, and maybe the protesting will stop.
Well, one thing,
Good point.
I want to ask you about the hypocrisy, because it seems to me that it's like there's hypocrisy going on. When Alex Jones was thrown off of Facebook and Twitter and the rest of them, the right-wing conservative media said, "Oh, it's censorship, Facebook, and they're censoring him, and it's wrong for democracy, and it's illegal." But those are private companies. They can kick whoever they want off their platform.
That's true.
Then, when it comes to the NFL and kneeling, they're the first ones to say he shouldn't be able to kneel. So on one end, they're saying that these private companies should give Alex Jones his constitutional right to do something, but then on the other end, they're saying the NFL should deny Colin Kaepernick his constitutional rights. So how do you feel about that dichotomy in the way they make those arguments?
Well, I think it is a bad dichotomy, and I actually think it's a non sequitur. Because first of all, what Colin is doing is he's not making any outbursts about. He's not telling people to go kill police. He's not telling people to disrespect the country. He's not saying the hell with the U.S. military. He just kneeled. That's all he did. That's all he did is kneel. On the other hand, Alex Jones, who I disagree with a lot, but I still believe in his Fifth Amendment right. But at the same time, Facebook, Twitter, all those are private organizations, and those private organizations have a right to kick anybody off their platform that they want to. This is totally different. First of all, these are things that are within these rights, within these social media companies. The NFL, these was not written NFL laws, okay? So I think those are two different things. And like I said, Alex Jones, I mean, come on now. We're talking about Alex Jones and Colin Kaepernick. I don't even know why we should even mention them both two together. You got a man, Alex Jones, is talking about the Sandy Hook was falsified. This dude was retarded. So he talking about this was fake, that these kids didn't really die. I mean, really, did y'all know he said that?
They turn into freaking frogs gay, man.
This man is propagating the children who actually died. They didn't really die. It was some type of conspiracy theory. So this dude is off his rockers, and I don't think he should even be mentioned in the same sentence with Colin Kaepernick. So I think that's a total non sequitur. But like I said, Colin only did, he wasn't speaking against anything. He didn't say 9/11 was fake. He didn't say that. He didn't say Donald Trump caused 9/11. Those weren't really Bin Laden. He didn't say anything like that. He just took his right within his right and took a knee. That's it. Simple.
Listen, I agree that I think he's expressing himself through protest and through peaceful protest. And just like I think Alex Jones is expressing himself through speech. And I think both of them are protected, but I think the issue here is if you're doing it, then it's who has to give it to you, and the government. I mean, you have those rights are against government intrusion, not against individuals. Hey, listen, G-Con.
Oh, let me say something before G-Con come in.
Go ahead.
Jesus Lord in the chat say that Alex Jones recanted that. I heard he did recant it, but it don't make no difference. He said it. So he hurt a lot of people's families' feelings by him even saying that stupid remark from the beginning. Yeah, he recanted it because there's a whole bunch of heat put on him. That's why he recanted it. So yeah, go ahead, Nick.
Yo, G-Con. So how do you feel about this whole thing? Like what do you feel about this whole?
Well, I think that the fact that we are even having this conversation about social things on how we relate to each other shows that we have a lot of work to do.
Yeah, we do.
When you look at this whole situation, I think that you put yourself in a position when you are in entertainment, in the entertainment business, and so you got to play by their rules, and there's certain things that they want you to do. And so when you take a stand against that, then of course they're gonna cut your umbilical cord off and how you eat. You know what I'm saying? And I think that respectfully, we should definitely make sure we view authority as something that is serious, especially when we got people running rampant in society, whether it's on the lower level in in the black communities or in the white community, any community, or even if it's internationally, because people sit down at the table with each other and blow each other up the next couple of days or years down the line. And so we should definitely respect authority. But when it comes to certain situations like this situation, as far as police brutality and all of these different things, I think that it definitely needs to be looked at. We can't be working on situations outside of America. When we got things going on in house,
That's right.
civil things is going on, and I think those things need to be looked at, dealt with, and I think that we should start there first, because you when you got homeless people, you got all types of systems set up to where people can't prevail. You got high insurance, as far as when it comes to medical insurance bills and stuff like that, but we'll spend a lot of money on this entertainment, so it's socially, there's a problem with that. Court cases on TV, trials, people bonding out knowing that they did the crime. So this situation is ridiculous, man. And so that's my position on that. I think that you allow yourself to be in that position, and so when you speak against those things, they're gonna come up against you, and I think that's what's happening right now.
It's sad because a lot of times, especially with these social issues, I think when I speak to people from other races, just about the black experience in America, I usually always get the, like, isn't that over? Hasn't it been done? Isn't it long gone? And it's hard, I think, for people who are not black to understand that this is just the process is continuing on. When we get pulled over, it's a different experience than if someone who was white gets pulled over. And when you do show all the statistics that blacks get pulled over more, when you show all the statistics that it seems to be inherently, it's like right now, I think we all live in our certain bubbles, and I think right now that's the problem. A lot of people who don't have the same experiences that we do live in a bubble. And that bubble says the justice system is right. People who get convicted are all criminals. And then when you aggregate to say, well, let's say in a city like New York, where 96% of the marijuana arrests are black people, but white people use it just as much as black people. It's like a fact like that kind of pushes against their own mentality about how they feel the system is just. So do you guys have those same experiences where you're trying to relate and say, hey, listen, there's something wrong with the system? We may not know what it is, but there's obviously something wrong with the system. And they kind of push back and say, no, there may be something wrong with something else, but the system itself is okay.
Oh, all the time. Oh yeah. Being from Louisiana, there, nobody trusts the NOPD, black, white, or in between. That's just that. But for a few different reasons. So it's understood, at least on a basal level, that police in that area, that particular police department, isn't very trustworthy. People don't know what I'm referencing. Largely, there's an incident that happened at the Twin Span. Some cops came to the Twin Span right after Katrina and murdered people, and then covered it up. And so a few years ago, they found systemic, and I mean systemic corruption among the higher ups. It wasn't just the officers. Many people took part in trying to cover it up, even though it was quite clear that a situation that should not have been escalated was escalated, and bad decisions were made, and then it was covered up subsequently. So incidents like that were very, very common, but it's not newsworthy. What's more newsworthy is showing you black faces and criminals, and so they're reinforcing this idea that the attachment to a particular production of a pigment equates to a level of criminality. Experiences like that actually led my cousin after the Navy to obtain a master's degree in criminology and criminal theory, and so now he is himself a police officer, but also avid critic of policemen. So it is, in my experience, especially engaging with people online, is that they have this ideal image of what social interaction should be across the board, with no regard to people's personal biases, because in their minds, the only biases exist in people's perception. So to many people I've encountered, they are not even familiar with something like the disparity ratio. If you actually go and look up criminal statistics, which a lot of people tend to do, but have not taken a statistics course in their life or even understand how to interpret statistics, they point to what they call the criminality, or what I refer to as the Black American pathology, the inherent, I guess, propensity for Black Americans to commit crime. And I put crime in quotes because there's about, and they correct me if I'm wrong, about 13 to 14 different categories of crime. But when I hear this line, it's couched within, these are the bad things that Black people do. Because largely crimes like pedophilia, arson, white collar crimes are committed by majority of the population, white individuals. So they're not talking about those crimes. They're talking specifically about the cherry pick statistics of people who are arrested and subsequently convicted of these crimes, with no regard to any type of biases such as disparity ratio. And I go a little bit into that. If you have a population of 100 people and you split the population into 50, 20, and 10, you expect to have them 50, 30,
Right,
50,
right.
50, 30, 20. Is that what's, okay, I'm sorry. 50, yeah, 50, 30, 20. Got my math messed up. So you expect to see stops. I mean, just stops, not arrests, not convictions, just stops in the same proportions. All right. So if you see 10% within 10% stops in the 50% of the population of that demographic, there's a problem. There's a huge problem. And again, this is something that they looked at in Ferguson, where the disparity ratio was absolutely ridiculous. 90% of the population, I want to say in Ferguson, Missouri, was Ferguson, Ferguson, Missouri, 90% were Black. I'm sorry, well, it was 90% were whatever demographic, whatever, and then only 10% were being stopped, and then vice versa. So that's something that I found very interesting. And upon talking to my cousin, he said, "Yeah, those statistics exist, but you really don't see them done in a lot of precincts because, well, guess what? Guess who are producing those numbers?" So it comes down, and this is just my opinion. People have grown up, they've been cultured to believe certain things about people, and it makes them feel as though they are inherently better than other folks. So if you attach your self-worth to your racial identity, well, of course you're going to believe that, well, inherently I'm better than somebody. Well, if I can easily identify the people that I'm better than, then how's that a disadvantage towards me? That's just the way things are.
Right.
And so I've seen a number of people promote this idea and not really understand the consequences of it, because it ends up relegating them into this small pocket of, well, you're just determined to be this, and that's fucking it, with no regard to what they actually do to break outside their own little mold there. But some of them are actually satisfied with just being mediocre. As long as I'm not, there's a oh man, it's a famous LBJ quote that I'm trying to think of. If you convince if you convince the lowest white man that he's better than the richest Negro, then you won him, or something to that effect. But it's true. It is absolutely true. You have people, and I'm going to bring him up. You have people like Tommy Hall.
The us against them mentality.
It's a us against them mentality. You have people like Tommy Hall, who promotes that people like literally poison themselves with bullshit as cancer treatment. While me, I am literally in school right now studying this shit. Literally studying this shit. But then if you ask people on the street who they should believe, well, I have the good old boy here who has the two most beautiful yet recessive traits around, versus somebody who doesn't but is educated. Well, who will they choose? So I think it is very, very, very interesting when you get down to it. But it comes down to.
Go ahead, Imp.
I mean, just straight up, man. Without, it's a good thing you mentioned LBJ.
LBJ.
Wow, amazing. One thing about LBJ, I can say he was 9 times out of 10 probably. He was probably one of the smartest presidents who actually infiltrated the Southern races into the politics of the world, and actually created that atmosphere. If y'all remember this. He had a whole thing where he had this whole campaign where he was actually reaching out to all the Southern Texas rich boys, everybody in Alabama say, hey man, y'all got to change y'all views now. In other words, he's basically telling them, put your racism in pocket and just try to turn it over into a new leaf, and we can do it another way. But listen, I mean, first thing we got to do is stop playing like racism don't exist and that race it doesn't matter. That's the first thing we got to do. Stop, like ignoring the elephant in the room. UCLA, if you want to talk about analytics and frameworks, whatever frameworks you want to talk about, coming from liberal framework or, a right-wing framework, UCLA has a great study hall. I know y'all have heard of critical race theory, CRT. Critical race theory, man, has been around for a long time. We know for a fact through certain stats that race, politics, race, and law play, and this is UCLA. This is a part of their law program. It plays a big role. Even in the early '90s, we're talking about disparaging differences between incarceration between whites and blacks in this country for the same crime, whether it's a felony or whether it's a misdemeanor. We know this for a fact through stats, and ain't nothing to really argue about. You know what I mean? It's not debatable. It's simple. It's simple to see. Well, when we look at these disparaging rates, even in the '80s, man, when Bush and Reagan pushed the cocaine to get the rock against the powder, cocaine is cocaine, but they knew that blacks were mostly the ones who actually pushing crack cocaine. So we're gonna give you more time for crack. Powder cocaine get less time. You know what I mean? Obama just not come around changing that not too long ago. So you look at the sentences. A white boy get charged of armed robbery, a black get charged of armed robbery. We'll see the white will get 75% lesser time to serve black. So this ain't like this is this ain't something that should be shocking when people actually study these particular things and study these stats. It's not something when we know police is pulling blacks over in average places and police is pulling white over average places. More blacks are getting more speeding tickets on an average than whites. I guess then by default, I guess black people just got heavier feet and we speed more. Okay, even if that's the case, you know what I mean? Which I doubt it, because we have no stat to show that. We see that blacks, who's a lesser minority than whites in this country, get more speeding tickets and other tickets more than whites. So that's just something that has to be talked about, and it's not something that can just be ignored and play like it's not a problem when it is.
Well, let's bring G-Con in, because G-Con, that's what he does. You know what I'm saying? So G-Con, how do you feel, especially being on the road? Do you feel that that with law enforcement, do you think there's this disparity the way they treat African Americans than they treat white people?
Yeah, I definitely do. Because what we got to understand is that most of the people that are law enforcement moved over from white sheets to blue sheets, and some people might not understand that. Like, if you say that racism doesn't exist, then I don't know, you blind to something, you know what I'm saying? And so I think that, police, they target, blacks overall than what they do their own. And so that's clear within these neighborhoods. And like I say, if you're being put in a hostile environment, or you're not given jobs, then you're gonna succumb to that evil. You don't have to, and that's when it comes to with the individual. Do the individual want to get rich or die trying? You know what I'm saying? Die trying to get rich. Do they want to succumb to that very type of wild life? And most of us do, because we all want to eat. We all want to survive. And so when you look at police and how they target you, they just about know how to entice you to respond in a manner to where you are doing certain things. Like they tell you, get out the car, put your hands up, this and that, and you see that some people become confused rather than just these people are trained to kill. They trained to kill. And so you have great authority, and you have to utilize that authority properly. And I don't think that police are actually demonstrating that. Some people are trigger happy. And so when you tell people to get out the car and this and that, yeah, you want to comply, make sure you comply. But then when you shooting people when they are complying or when they don't understand you, some people might be off a substance. They might be intoxicated. Ain't no telling what's going on with those people. But you have it to where people are being shot down. Now, I can't say this. Do that excuse people that are out there doing a lot of crime, that has succumbed to a form of lifestyle that is wicked and hostile, do they need to be dealt with? Of course they do. They need to be dealt with. But when you got situations as what I've been seeing, some things are just not cannot, they need to be answered to. You can't you can't just say this wasn't that. Nah, this was that. You did this because you felt like this. Now sometimes racial profiling does help. It does help sometimes in some instances. Like for instance, if I'm in a neighborhood and I see that and I'm an officer and I see that there's a white man that's in the neighborhood and it's 3 a.m. at night and he's in this neighborhood where it's predominantly black, then I can look at that situation as a black man because I used to sell crack and say 9 times out of 10, he come get some crack. 9 times out of 10. And I'm just keeping it honest. You know what I'm saying?
Isn't that racially profiled that's like saying if you see me in a white neighborhood, I'm up to no good because 9 times out of 10, black people who are in that neighborhood don't belong there or have committed some type of crime. So isn't that just kind of reverse racism in a way?
Right. That's what I'm saying. Sometimes you can profile like that. Sometimes it is helpful to look at that and say, I can see a problem coming before it even come because I already done seen that. So sometimes you can do that, but sometimes that does not work. That does not work. Now it has to be like certain like for instance, if you see a black man, just walking at nighttime, he know if he's walking at nighttime in the neighborhood, he needs to have on the proper things to even be doing that. So he can be seen if he's running. You know what I'm saying? Police might come and say, hey, are you from this area? They should do that, whether it's black or white. Are you from this area? Check their ID, see where they live at, because you have no business running all the way on this side of town. If you stay on this side of town, that can cause a problem. So sometimes racial profiling, it does play a role in investigating something sometimes. But when it's taken beyond that, and you ain't using good judgment to where your judgment is used in a all the time, then that's where the problem comes in. It does help out in a way, not all the time, but it does in a way. Because if somebody's in my neighborhood, and they around, like I say, it's around 3 a.m. and they walking through my neighborhood, and I know predominantly, and I can tell the way they looking. You looking for something, and so I got, at that time I had what you needed at that time because that's what I used to do back then. So I can't say that, but yeah, definitely police are geared towards they produce police in black communities, and so there is a lot of crime within the black communities, and so there is a lot of racial profiling, pulling people over. Sometimes it's beyond racial profiling, so I would agree that it's geared up towards black people in the sense to where it's causing them to respond in a way negatively and get killed or something else happens.
Well, I agree with you in part and disagree in part in this sense. Like I agree that sometimes racial profiling is good. If I got 3 guys who just robbed a bank and I got 20 people in the bank say it's 3 black guys wearing blue jumpsuits, So if I see a black guy in a blue jumpsuit or something like that, I'm going to be looking for that type. That's the type of criminal element I'm going to be looking for. Something very specific where I'm looking for some characteristics. I'm profiling now for those 3 black guys in the jumpsuit. But now if we're talking about me being in a neighborhood, a black neighborhood, and a white guy happens to be there, I think that's different because I'm only questioning him because of the color of his skin. And I think that's the racial profiling I wouldn't want cops to do. I wouldn't want them to go up to that guy and say, well, let me get your ID or why are you around here? Understanding that, I do agree with you're saying that most of the time that person may be up to no good because you understand why someone who looks like that may come around, but that could just be some innocent guy who just got lost, for instance. Just like sometimes I'll get lost in a white neighborhood. And I think it speaks to a deeper divide in America where we still have these areas, where black people live over here, white people live over here, and if, just like we're talking about now, if a white person goes to a black neighborhood, it seems to be some problem. And until we can get rid of that thinking, that understanding, then I think we'll always have this type of struggle. And I think this struggle is just, I do understand that we have to overcome a particular mindset. But I don't agree that profiling someone based on how they look in some neighborhood is the answer. I think that itself is the problem.
Yeah, I have an issue with that because that leaves the door open for um, stop and frisk, and that was
Yeah, you're right. They do.
if I'm correct me if I'm wrong, that was determined to be constitutionally illegal. Uh, if and Nate, I'm looking at you to confirm that I'm pretty sure that's what I'd heard, but yeah, that's because let's say, well, I could not walk in my in-laws neighborhood, even though it's a very very affluent neighborhood, and Elkton, Maryland. Uh, way more affluent than any other places, any other subdivision in that area. I couldn't walk outside because every time I go for a walk just to clear my head, uh, magically a police car within 5 minutes of me going out there would pull up and ask me if I'm okay. And I'm like, well, yeah, no, that's fine. It's the same female officer every single time. And so someone is watching me walk out there every single time and is alerting this woman in this police car. Now, it was my understanding that she actually lives in the neighborhood, but someone's alerting her, or she herself might be out watching me. But this happened numerous times. But one time I went out with the express purpose, same route, just to make a loop to see if I could make it back home before she would come out there. And I walked a little faster than I normally do. And sure enough, as I'm walking in, she's pulling around there looking for me. So, it is something it's a bit jarring among other interactions that we had. And actually, and for those of you who don't know, part of the reasons we left Maryland was because of some racial incidents that happened to my family. That, and of course, living 30 minutes from KKK headquarters. But I'm not even joking. We were 30 minutes from Rising Sun, Maryland. But it's real. But it's not the reality for some people. For some people, it is, well, Uncle Joey's kind of racist when we go to Thanksgiving, and he says really non-politically correct things, and that kind of stuff. No one's getting hanged, no one's getting drugged like Emmett Till, and you're right for the most part. That's not actually happening anymore. But you still have instances where people are being discriminated against and being shot when they're complying with the police. So there's a progression of, well, I don't think this is happening, and people shouldn't make a big deal out of things. But here's something interesting that I started doing after a conversation with some folks on social media, some folks who aren't fucking retarded. A lot of the pushback that you see from people, the people who express their opinions as, oh, well, people shouldn't be demonstrating, people shouldn't be protesting. If you have an issue, you should just get a lawyer and because that'll solve things. Well, getting a lawyer against a police force isn't really a thing, but it's kind of hard to get a lawyer when you're dead. But nevertheless, you do have a lot of people who are just that passive about it because, again, it's not their issue. So
Hold on, yo.
So, yeah. If I have issue, I'm gonna just call Nate. I'm not even gonna lie. I'm just like, hey man, look, I got Officer Gumby over here.
I appreciate that. I'll get you out. I'll make it happen. But you know what? It's this whole thing is more of it's an effect. And the symptom has been, I think, coming for hundreds of years. From when the Black and African American experience here in the United States was slavery, to when it became criminalization, and now it's enforcement. It's enforcement of the legal system, and that's the part that we're trying to overcome now. Because the only thing I think most people want is that if you're going to enforce the crimes or have law enforcement, then we need to make sure that it's a race-blind system. You treat everybody. If you treat everybody the same, and that's not what's happening, and because that's not what's happening, that's why we have these issues. So, but listen, let's move to our next topic, probably our last topic for the evening. So, G Conscious and Emperor are going to have a conversation about apologetics and about the Christian experience in the black community in America. Me and Dragnut are obviously just going to be here, and we'll chime in, but this is really going to be a one-on-one conversation because they have vastly different views. Now I'll let G-Con start with just giving just a quick background on what he does and what everything's about, and then Emperor Atheist and G-Con have a conversation. So go ahead, G-Con. So what's up?
All right, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
All right, cool. If I start to chip out or chop out, let me know because I'm traveling right now. Like the brother said, I am a Christian, and Christian is really just a follower of Christ. The words and teachings of Christ are what he brought and what the Bible was really trying to convey. And so, I think that those principles are something that helps me as an individual to relate to certain people, on this earth. You know what I'm saying? Well, I wouldn't just say certain people, but all man, on how I relate to all men on this earth. And so that's one of the tools that I use, to basically help me to get through my my walk of life. And like I say, I've lived a lifestyle of drugs, whether if it's selling drugs, gang banging, from the streets of Los Angeles to St. Louis, Missouri. And so, and now being a parent, a family man, and things of that sort, and really looking at me as an individual as more so as a spiritual things and also as physical things. And so how to have a balance with both of those things together. And so those are some of the little, summing up some of the things of within my lifestyle, on how I have used the Christian, experience to help me with my experience within this flesh.
Okay, cool, Imp. Hey, you want to address something? Because you had a video.
Yeah, go ahead.
You had a video recently, man. I think it was called Counter Apologetics.
Right.
Am I correct? So,
right.
So in response to what G-Con's putting out there, because he's saying, look, this has helped me in my life, and so I could say, let me throw in my 2 cents. That's the same thing my biological father says too. If he wasn't a Christian, he'd probably be in jail, and I probably would have never met him. So how do you respond as somebody who was on the opposite side of that? How do you specifically respond to, these getting this apologetics game, having these beliefs have edified, him and others?
Well, I mean, that comes down to faith and belief. That has nothing to do with apologetics, per se. Apologetics is actually trying to make an argument to persuade people that your particular personal God is real. Counter-apologetics is simply refuting that and pointing out the illogical things in these particular arguments. Now, all people of faith, Christian, and I won't say something else. G-Con says from LA. I'm from LA too. I'm from Inglewood, matter of fact. You're 106 in Yukon. So I heard him say he's from LA to St. Louis. So been through St. Louis too, man. He's St. Louis. But that's what counter-apologetics is. Counter-apologetics is simply refuting these arguments. And honestly, just coming from a Christian background myself and going to theological school, I mean, I actually understand the depths of indoctrination. You know what I'm saying? And I understand the depths of belief and how deep it actually goes. So being a counter-apologist is basically to go to reverse that, to make people think about the arguments that they try to actually uphold. And I'll have to make this point. Any argument in and of itself is just an argument. It's not evidence for any God. But there's so many different type arguments in Christian apologetics. And some people are not apologists. So let me get that clear. Some people are just Christians who, a lot of Christians don't really understand the Bible. And I think G-Con would know that. He go against a lot of them, especially Black Hebrews. So, a lot of people misinterpret. They don't understand biblical hermeneutics. They don't understand interpretation. Everybody got their own different interpretations of the Bible, and rightfully so, because there's no particular one set of parameters actually exalt any belief. But I mean, that's my point. I think y'all already know how I feel about precept. I think precept, specifically Satan Bruger case, I think is the weakest arguments for any deity, and we have that debate coming up. But just apologetic arguments, period. I mean, I don't care what it is. I love philosophy. I love religious philosophy, and I love refuting these arguments. Whether it's cosmological, morality, whatever, fine tuning, it doesn't make any difference. So I just think these arguments are, I think, my personal opinion, I think it's a last whim for Christians to try to just make a ploy for something. And I also deem, I have to say this too, specifically when we talk about, I'm not going to say pro-Black Christianity, but specifically, I guess I can use that term, specifically when our people try to use Christianity to the point of saying it came from us, or Jesus is Black. And y'all look at social media, y'all see all this King James is Black garbage and all of this stuff. So when I see my people coming from this particular point of view, I think that's even a double dagger for them to try to use and say, oh, well, you know, the Coptic church was this, or we were the first Christians. All of this is non-historic. You know, this is just it doesn't have a basis or a foundation. And even if it did, it doesn't make the religion true. I don't care what color Jesus was. If he existed, it doesn't matter what his ethnicity was. It doesn't predicate anything he taught to be true. It doesn't predicate anything that was said about him in the Bible, New Testament, turning water into wine. It doesn't predicate any of the miracles to be true. So ethnicity has nothing to do with anything. That's the first thing I want to say. You even have pro-Black Muslims who say the same thing. Prophet Muhammad and the tribe of Quraysh was Black. So what? It's still BS. He still told you to drink camel piss. I don't care what color it was. I don't give a damn. It doesn't make me proud. I want to accept that. It doesn't predicate to be true. So that's my position on that.
Well, you gave G-Con a lot to respond to. So, G-Con, would you like to respond? Because it seems like he's saying that the arguments aren't convincing to him. But obviously, you have some particular arguments. So go ahead. You have the floor.
Right. I think that, like I say, you know, like we deal with apologetics, you know what I'm saying, just as well. But mostly, you know, sometimes more me personally against people who are religious, you know what I'm saying, just as well. And also some atheists just as well. But when you talk about, like, you know, he mentioned, I think he talked about certain things as far as Blacks saying that, you know, Christ was Black and this and that, it doesn't make a difference. And, you know, I'm definitely in agreement with that because whether he's white, Black, or Asian, or, you know, from Asia, whatever, none of that means nothing. It's really the message. It's the message, you know, that he was conveying. You know, whether people believe if Christ was real or not, you know what I'm saying? You know, the message is still real, you know what I'm saying? And what Christ was trying to convey is what caused me to even, you know, be a Christian. Like I said, I've looked into the conscious community, you know, Kemetic literature. I looked into, you know, Sumerian literature, all these different types of literature, whether if it's Greek deities and stuff like that. And I think that for the most part, all of them have something in common, you know. And one of the things is that they believe that, you know, the principles that we see of good and evil exist outside of the body. And, you know, all of us want to know what's the origin? Where do we come from? Where are we going? You know, what happens, you know what I'm saying? And how do we start? And I think that even as, you know, scientists, we all are the study of, you know, we all have ology behind everything because we were studying and we want to know these things. And so we don't have the full answer to things, you know, but even as a Christian, we don't have the full answers. You know, we believe, you know, we're believers. And so we hope. The Bible says that we hope in God, you know what I'm saying? And so, you know, all of us in some point, you know, at some point, you know, some fashion, some way, we're believing, you know what I'm saying? Sometimes, you know, we're believing in something, you know, whether or not if we like it or not. If we don't have the the entirety of something and we're ignorant of it, then we're you know, even some of the things that we're doing studies on, those things are subject to change. And if they are subject to change, that means that we're still all having a belief or assuming some things because we all don't have the answers, and we're trying to get towards those answers. And what's more importantly is how we relate to each other. You know what I'm saying? And you know, I think that's what Jesus was trying to teach on how we should relate to each other. And you know, I think that you know, living in the having a human experience, you know, is something that you know we need to learn how to relate to each other. So I'm in agreement with a lot of stuff that he said. You know, I'm not here to make anybody be a Christian or you know none of that. You know, if they don't, I'm gonna still love them regardless because you know the Bible tells me, "Oh no man, nothing but to love them." So I owe individual people, I owe people to love them, and so in loving people, sometimes it means in protecting. Sometimes it's also, and sometimes you know, just because we have free moral agents, you know, sometimes they can do what they can choose to do what they want to do. But sometimes if they choose the best, that's good for all. But if they choose evil, then that's not good for all. You know, and I believe that that's when we have to deal with that. So I believe that God is loving, you know, and because He loves us so much, if there's a party and the party is going smooth, or there's a nice symphony going, and then somebody come in and they do something that's crazy, you know, you got to give them full warning and say, hey, you doing this, you doing that, and so then that's when God has to come in and bring some type of judgment, or even me as a parent had to bring judgment on my kids. I don't want to whoop them, but when they start doing things this not what they should be doing, then I have to bring some type of judgment on them or punish them, you know, so they can understand and take me seriously. And I think that's the case, you know. But like I said, I'm not here to make anybody be, you know, a Christian. I want to persuade them, you know what I'm saying? I do want to persuade them, but if I can't make them, then they free. They free to believe what they want to believe.
Well, I have questions for both of you. For Emperor Atheist, my question is, you said something earlier. You said arguments are not evidence. But I would ask you, if we're talking about evidence for a proposition to be true, I would say a deductive argument can be a form of evidence. And I would push back and ask you why, if A is equal to B and B is equal to C, if I conclude that A is equal to C through deduction, then I would believe that proposition, we can conclude that proposition is true just based on the deductive argument. So it seems like the argument itself, which is valid and sound, could itself be evidence for the proposition being true. If someone was to make a convincing argument for God's existence, wouldn't you say if someone was able to make a rational deductive argument just like A, B, and C, do you think that would be evidence for God?
Yeah, but it's never been done. First of all, we're not talking about deductive arguments, Nate. And you being a man of philosophy, I think you know that. There's never been a deductive. First of all, let me address G-Con. I like what G-Con said about beliefs, because he's right. Everybody has particular beliefs, and all of us are still learning. And then I'm gonna get back to your deductive, and we're gonna talk about some induction too. But yes, G-Con is totally right. He's like he said he's not here to change my, but he is here to persuade. And this brings us back to what apologetics is for. Apologetics and arguments is to persuade people. Counter apologetics, whatever. When we do this show, we're doing the Three Black Heathen show. We talk about all different types of things. We talk about politics, blah, blah, blah. But in actuality, our title alone, we're trying to persuade more black people, specifically more black. We want white people too, because we know we have white fans. Shout out to all our people in the UK, by the way. But we're trying to persuade people of all ethnicity. We're trying to persuade them to think about the God hypothesis. Just like G-Con, on the other hand, is trying to persuade people to follow Christ, which nothing is wrong with that. This is where apologetics comes in at. So that's a great topic. Good what he said on that. But back to what you said, Nate. Of course, if all things being equal, we understand it. All things being equal, if A equals B, and B equals C, then of course A equals C. Okay, we understand these, but this is something that's never been done for God. Okay, in a lot of deductive reason, there are things that we can deduce to when it comes to evidence. But when I talk about an argument, in and of itself, it's just an argument. I'm talking about a classical argument. I'm talking about in classical philosophy, classical arguments. There's been arguments for God. For example, Thomas Aquinas, who's a Christian, strong Christian apologist who I actually admired. He was very, very intelligent. And you know, Saint Amsel, who actually came with the ontological argument. These are very intellectual people of their day and time. And I don't know if a lot of people ever read the Summa Theological that Aquinas made, or his 5 proofs for God. I had to study this when I was in school, and I actually still, even as an atheist, I love his arguments that he made. Some of them are weak, I think, but some of them are very strong. Some of them can make you say, okay, well, that could be possible. But it's just the same brick wall that you still run into. And, you know, even Christian apologists admit this. William Lane Craig has admitted this to me in email. Jeffrey Farms admitted this to me. So they say, well, look, that's true. These arguments, it's not evidence for our God, our personal Christian God per se. Whatever argument you're using, the cosmological argument. And then I'm explaining why I think this is important. Because as atheists, I don't think you always hear people say, well, if you're an atheist, why don't you just be quiet? Why don't you just don't worry about religion? Why are you a counter apologist and atheist? Why you care? Just go on with your life. And I want to explain why this is important because of religion. Why not only am I an atheist, but I'm also an anti-theist. But when you look at these arguments, the wall that you run into, the assertions that are made, the thing that you have to understand, it still comes down to a belief. It's not deductive. It's not a deductive argument. It's not a good deductive argument. Because when we're dealing with a cosmological argument, or we're dealing with the moral argument for God, objective morality, then what God? We still have to come to the question, what God created objective morality? Or what God created the universes? Who was the unmovable mover? How do you predicate that it was your Christian God or your Muslim God? Because I've debated Muslims, jurists on this too. And they use the kalam. And, you know, kalam is an Arabic term. It means discourse. So when we talk about the kalam cosmological argument, that is being basically used by Christians today, like William Lane Craig, Alvin Plantinga. We're talking about Islamic argument that was used in the 8th and 9th and 10th century amongst Islamic jurists and Islamic intellectuals in argument to try to prove Allah of the Quran and not Yahweh or the Bible. So this is a big wall that's ran into, and this is why I think counter-apologetics is important. Now, why do I think it's necessary for us to normalize atheism or to persuade people away from religion? Because I think, personally, I think religion is poison. I think it's poisoned our children. I think it's an indoctrination. I think it gives people an invisible, inalienable right to think they can do what they want to do, demand things. Let's put the 10 Commandments in politics. Let's put prayer in school. Why? Everybody don't have to believe in that. We don't have to believe in that. God is not mentioned in the Constitution. I think religion has an arrogance about itself. Besides the killing, besides murdering, and people always try to use it.
Hold on, but Imp, I don't want to give him too much to respond to because you would hit him
we can make this like 2-3 shows. Go ahead.
No, but you mentioned a lot of stuff, and I wanted to give G-Con a chance to respond.
Go ahead, no problem.
Go ahead, G-Con. Respond to whatever you want. If you want me, I'll ask my question later. But I had a question, but he's giving you a lot to work with. So go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I think that when you start looking at religion, I think that when we even opened up, we start talking about social. I call it social science.
Right.
We start dealing with things that's socially being done in the world, in the system. And so I think that religion is not even really the problem. It's more so what we see is we're dealing with people with lust and lust, all types of these different things that we see that's in the world that has to be dealt with. And so when we look in our communities, for instance, I mean, what person that's in the community that's black is actually thinking about the Bible? You know what I'm saying? Most people is getting drunk, getting high, sex, unlawful sex. What I mean by that is, you're not married, unlawful sex, and trying to chase the next high. You know what I'm saying? And so, or if they not being entertained by other things, that we see that causes people to be entertained and blinded to what's going on in the world. Religion that's not even really that thing is way behind now. And so there's much more problems that we need to look at. And I think that we started off actually dealing with some of the problems in the communities as well as internationally that's going on. That's not even really dealing with religion. Now, if you start dealing with religion, whether if you're a Muslim, there still is moral things that we see that has to be dealt with. You know, as far as if God exists, like I say, that's people's opinion. But at the end of the day, at the end of the day, if God does not exist, you still have some type of moral responsibility. You still have a conscience, and that has to be dealt with. Con, the prefix of con is joint the with, and so you have some type of joint knowledge. Science is knowledge. You have some type of joint knowledge, with each other, or either with what I feel is the creator. And so we all feel this, and we know that there's, when we do one wrong or we do something we feel that some people corrupt that conscience. So, and that would be my response to that is that, religion is it shouldn't even be that. That shouldn't even really be your problem right now. It should be much more than that. When we got people that ain't thinking about religion, that's killing each other, in these streets, especially if you're talking about the black community. They ain't thinking about God at all. God to them probably, exists or he don't exist, but they don't really care. And so I think that it's much more than that. You know, if you're saying that that's the problem, then really it's much more than that, because like I say, religion ain't being taught in schools.
Well,
They've been stopped teaching religion in schools, actually.
well, one thing what you said at the end, I really wanted to let me ask my question because it goes back to what you said at the end. It's about education.
But let me answer that first, Nate. Let me answer that first.
All right, go ahead.
I don't want to be straw man here. I don't want to be straw man.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
He made a good point, but the thing is, I never said. First of all, we can do more than one thing. I mean, we're volitional beings. We can do more than one thing. We definitely have a lot of issues besides religion. I never said religion was the main problem. Never said that once. We have a lot of issues within the black community that we need to deal with, like black on black crime. This is one of my reasons I have a problem with BLM, Black Lives Matter, because they only stick with one injustice. They talk about police brutality, which is a small number compared to black on black killing. That's one issue. So we have a lot of issues. Are still selling drugs to each other, gang banging, a lot of different things. But religion is a culprit. Is a bad culprit. And this is why I'm a counterpositive, because I think as long as you got preachers in the pulpit and you still have priests and Christian preachers still molesting children under the guise of God, I think we need to talk about how bad religion is. And as long as it's especially in the black community, this is not even said enough. Matter of fact, I'm gonna make a video on this tomorrow. Again, how black preachers are sucking the wealth out of our community. We better not never shut up about how bad religion is. Not just the black community, but the Joel Osteens and all these people been sucking money out from the white 85% too. So religion is really bad, because I'm gonna tell you why it's bad. Not only the stats show that it's bad when it comes to education and religion, because most specifically, especially our people, when we talk about mothers and our grandmothers, man, they tend to, religious people tend to, and for what I've seen all my life, they tend to think that, well, since I'm going to get this pie in the sky, I'm not going to worry about my credit score down here. I'm not going to worry about my finances. I'm just going to keep giving it to Pastor Pimp every Sunday so he can get his money to the bank, so the bank can get his money to make triple profit out of it and give it to these white business owners who are going to eventually make grandma and them leave the community, because the money that this church is funding to the bank ain't giving it back to the black community. The bank is going to build businesses on this community and wind up gentrifying your grandmother's neighborhood. So religion is really bad. It's just more than just about belief in God. As far as just belief in God, I think that's the minute. That's probably the last of the issues about believing in God. It's just so happened to counter-apologetics just like something I like to do. It's just something I love to argue philosophy. I love to argue religion. That's just something I do just for fun. But when we talk about the problems of religion, it's deeper than your belief in God or your belief in any different religion. Whatever religion you believe in. It's people who think they can kill you. When we talk about Islam fundamentalists, you and your mother or your kids walking through a mall and the mall just blow up because you got ignorant people who believe that they're going to go to heaven with 72 virgins because they believe that America hates them, or they believe that they owe America something. Innocent people dying, getting shot up in clubs like in Orlando, Florida a few years ago, and San Bernardino, California. These are religious problems. Even just going back to the 70s, all these blacks and the Jim Jones thinking they're going to some heaven because they believe this crap. So it's deeper than the belief in God, but this is the foundation for ignorance. And I think the more that we question these religions, the more people will wake up and try to get out of this mindset. I don't really want to be around people who think like this, who believe in ancient religions, archaic religions, who just believe this way. I just rather not. I rather speak against it all the time. So yes, it's not the only problem, not the only issue, but it is an issue.
Right, and I think that that's the problem right there is because like you just named some things, right? Um, like you named people who uses religion. Like you talked about the financial things that we see of them giving their money to people that's in the church, and so I think that you said I listened to you because I think that Dragna sent me some stuff, and so I listened to some of the things that you said, and I think that you've been taught from a Western perspective, Eastern culture. Now, if you look at this Eastern culture that come up out of the Bible, the government that was built, not a widow, not anyone should have been poor in Israel. Why? Because the system that was built up was a system to fill the breaches of the walls. This what tithes and offerings was for. So this is not what Western Christianity is teaching today, because it's a false dichotomy. It's not nothing that's real. And so when you're looking at these people that's teaching from these people that have a Eastern type of culture, type of lifestyle, then if I want to understand what's going on in this book, then I have to get off into what are these guys dealing with? Was these guys what was they were farming? Well, how did they do they with their economics and when Israel became like these pastors, because they did, because once the people would give their tithes and their offerings, you had these greedy priests. Then instead of taking care of the breaches of the walls and the breaches of the cities, and using these for taxes to clean up things, because we use stuff decay, deteriorate, and so it has to be remodeled, it has to be fixed up or rebuilt. And so when you look at it in that manner, did Israel have a financial system that it helped them? Yes, they definitely did. Should that be taught in the church? It definitely should. Should the church industrialize their communities? Definitely, because if it was taught of the assembly that was in the Old Testament and in the New Testament, then you should definitely industrialize your communities. In other words, people should be producing toilet paper. People should be producing or dealing with agriculture, because that was the system and the government that was set up in Israel. And so when you look at that system and you look at the Jewish people that you see today, they deal with a system like that. I'm not saying they perfect. They deal with science. They deal with different things, and so we got to do the same thing. Even as black people, we have to do the same thing. If I'm a black person, I go into a person's city and I'm studying a moral code, and we studying the same, we're under a government and we're studying the same moral code, I should be able to go to your house, or you should be able to come to my house, just like a Jew would be able to come in town and go to another Jew's house without having to worry about anything. So this is a system that these people have. And so when you look at the church today, the church is a joke. I mean, I will agree to you with that. It is a joke, but
Somebody sound going out?
you're taking this Bible and you're not understanding you see from an Eastern.
You're cutting out. You're cutting it out a little bit.
Okay.
There you go.
Can you hear me
You're
now?
good now. Yeah, you're good now.
If you're not understanding these things from how from an Eastern perspective,
He's still cutting
on
out.
how you're looking at it. I'm still cutting out.
It'll sound like it.
Okay. You're looking at it from a perspective of Western Christianity. You know what I'm saying? For the most part, and people using religion or using God for gain, basically. You know, and I think that that's the whole thing right there. But like I say, you're entitled to that, and you said you don't want to be around them. You said you don't want to be around them. That's the first thing you said. You said you don't want to be around them. So then, that's another thing that we see also. There's a problem with that, because just because you believe a certain way and you believe that way, I'm not saying I don't want to be around you. I got friends that is atheists, you know what I'm saying? And they entitled to that belief. Or they entitled to that if they want to deal with that. And so I'm not saying, well, I don't want to be around you. And so then that's where the problem come in at, because we have these different opinions, and they become more than just an opinion. It becomes to where not only do I don't want to be around them, but to other atheists, I also hate them and I want to get rid of them. See, this is what we see that has happened even within people that claim to be Christians. I don't want to be around unbelievers, and then later on, guess what they do? They start killing the unbelievers or this and that, and so that is a problem with that within human society. And I don't know if that's what you're saying, but you seem like in the past you had a real bad experience with God and the with you used to be a Christian, right? Or your peoples was Christians. I think you said they was.
Yeah, I grew up Christian.
Yeah, so it seemed like that. There's a something with that, and I understand. Like brother, to be honest, like I understand like every like where you coming from, to be honest, because there's some things that we question. We say, well, this is I don't believe this, and I don't believe that. Or where you at, God? Where was you at when this person was killed? Or what was my mother, my father, they died? And so we question those things, and so I take it from a perspective of what I see biblically, and also what my ancestors looked at, far as we transition. This is a dispensation. We all are ministers. We must administer to certain things, and what we do in this lifestyle determine where we end up. I think this is just a probation period for us. Whether you did with Kemet and you look at their paperwork, their literature, what they say the same thing. They say in order to go where the blessed dead goes in the afterlife, where you go into the Amduat, the underworld, you must come through the Akhet. And the Akhet is the primordial mounds of the beginning of time, and you must go through those places. And when you go through that place, you go to where the blessed dead, and you go to that eternity, blessed, where you blessed, you have this eternal bliss. And so me personally, I think that's what I believe in. I believe that, we're transitioning. This is a transition. What we do in this lifestyle determines where we end up in the next lifestyle. I think that this is a go ahead, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. I mean, you go ahead, finish if you want to finish. Go ahead, finish.
Yeah, but and that's me personally, but I think that we should relate to each other better, no matter how we feel, because like I said, I don't owe you nothing but to love you. You know what I'm saying? I owe you that. You know what I'm saying? And so that's what my Bible tells me. I owe you that.
Okay, well, let me say this. I feel that. Let me say this. First of all, you said something about understanding Christianity from a Western and Eastern perspective. First of all, the New Testament comes from a Greek perspective, okay, an Eastern perspective. I don't, and as far as any Western perspective, we're from the West, and what we see in the West is what Christianity is doing. The Israel that you described, you've never seen. You've never lived in a system like that. As a matter of fact, the first century Christian was up under a Roman caste system, a certain system. They wasn't up under a system where they was monetarily moving their own money. I mean, even if you believe in the Gospels, you see that the Augustine and all of these particular Caesars were taxing the Christians. They was up under a totally different system. So we don't actually have enough external historicity of how the Christians move. We do see for a fact how Jews are moving today in Israel, how they have their own Hebrew universities, how they have their own military, they have their own land over there. We do see that. We see that for a fact. But I've studied Eastern philosophy. I've studied Eastern religions. I actually have a metanetric group on Facebook. So, to say what I haven't learned, you don't really know me like that, but that's cool. I understand. So I understand Eastern philosophy, Eastern religion philosophy, and how you're saying how it should be. But once again, that goes back to your interpretation of how you thought the New Testament is being taught. But that's not how it is. And the thing to ask, why is that? And go back to just the verse that Jesus said in the New Testament. He said, you should know a tree by the fruit it bears. Well, they say he said. I don't know. They say he said you should know a tree by the fruit it bears. Well, if you look at this tree of Christianity in the West, which is basically ruling the world, it's a bad tree. It's bearing bad fruit. So that's what you can go. You have to go by action. You can't go by what you think something should be from a book or from books that were written in the second copies that we found in the 1st and 2nd century AD. But now, let me straighten this up too. When you said that, I said I don't want to be around people. Yeah, I'm gonna say that again. I do not want to be around people with a sick mentality. If I ask you right now, you said your job is to love me. So is your job also to love a fundamentalist Muslim who want to kill you because you're a Christian? If you answer that honestly, I don't think you'll say yes. So first thing we have to be is real with ourselves. I don't want to be around all people. Of course I don't. I don't want to be around ignorant people who think they can kill me for their religion. Why would you want to be around some people like that? And I'm definitely not going to love them just because they're human. Of course not. No. Even in the Bible, God said he loved and he hated. You know, so I mean, say he loved Isaac and hated Jacob. So there's even duality. When you talk about duality, you talk about Kemet. You say you study Sumerian, Epic of Gilgamesh, and all these things, everything taught duality. All of these Eastern religions talk about duality. Even when you go into Hinduism, Buddhism, duality is something that's taught. So we don't need to be one-track minded. We need to be fact-based if we can. But like you say, everybody have beliefs. But when we talk about as far as the money system, what we need to do, that goes back to what I said. You took it right, but you said that especially Black, we need to think about more financial things. And it goes back exactly what I said about 30 minutes ago about why I think religion basically is one of the problems that's stopping us. When you look at the chain gangs and you look at most of the Blacks that's killing each other out here, are the ones that selling dope. 97% of these guys grew up in the church and are still theists. So we can't just say theism is not a problem when it is. That's my goal on that.
Can we get a mic check on
everything? No, he left. I think his feed, because he was trying to say something, but I think his feed dropped out. So listen, that was actually a pretty interesting conversation. I was wanting to see where you guys are going to go with that, because it seems like he was talking from a more altruistic point of view. Like we should all speak to everyone, and I think you were talking about it more pragmatically. Like, you know, there's certain people that no one would speak to. There he goes again. There we go. I don't know when you dropped out, G-Con, but it seems like Empress talking about a more practical way of interacting with people. You know, I'm not going to interact with people who want to kill me, for instance, versus your more altruistic.
I have Christian friends myself.
So go ahead. Yeah, now we can hear you now. So go ahead. You got the mic.
One of the things I would say this is you said somebody want to kill you. I don't know what I didn't hear you when you said.
I said you don't want to be around people that want to kill you. Why would you want to be around somebody that want to kill you?
Right.
I mean, in the name of religion, like if I ask you right now, would you want to hang around fundamentalist Muslims or Buddhists who want to kill, who don't like Christians, Buddhists in Miramar who hate Christians, specifically Black Christians and Muslims? You're going to say, of course not. You're not going to go up to those people and tell them you love them. You're going to be pragmatic about it. You're going to be, sensible about it. You don't want to be around ignorance like that.
Right.
That's what I was saying. That's what I was saying.
What Christian you hung around and said that they wanted to kill you, though? You said what? I'm sorry? What Christian have you? There's some Christians that say they want to kill you.
You keep missing what I'm saying. There are fundamentalist Christians. There are fundamentalist Muslims. The KKK was a Christian group. Did you know that?
Yeah, definitely. And that's what I'm saying. Like,
I'm asking you. So would you want to hang around them in that mentality?
I definitely wouldn't. But what I'm saying is this is like a lot of people say that they something that they not. You know what I'm saying? And so,
but who are we to judge to say what they're not? That's just like when we have Muslims who, when a fundamentalist group do something to blow something up, the first thing these other Muslims will say, well, they're not really Muslims. They're not following the Quran. In which in actuality, they basically can follow the Quran because it has loose interpretation. So who are these Muslims who say that these other Muslims wasn't true to their religion, wasn't making their prayers 5 times a day and so forth, paying their zakat? Just like who are you to say that these other Christians are not Christians? How can you say that?
Hold on, but let him get out his response.
Right,
I know his mic's a little choppy. Go ahead, G-Con.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you. Go ahead.
Can you? Right, because number one is this: it's clear that you shouldn't be as a Christian hating on people for their color, because the Bible don't teach you to hate people because they're a different color. Where does it teach you that at?
Say that again now.
He's saying that.
Go ahead, Drag.
I was going to say, so yeah, he's saying that, well, he's able to judge the people who are claiming these things by their actions, because the Bible says nowhere, hate on somebody for their skin color. So obviously, if they're doing that, well, then they can't be Christian. So that's his rebuttal to that.
Well, I have like 3 different answers for that. G-Con. First of all, the God of the Bible was prejudiced towards certain people and tribes. First of all, he hated the Canaanites, who actually came from the line of Ham, according to your Bible. Not that I believe it, but he said, I just read a verse. He hated Jacob instead of Isaac. Why? Why did he hate Jacob? Christianity during the 17th, 16th, 18th century, there were still black slaves in this country. So with your line of thought, which I totally agree with, but one thing you have to understand about this, G-Con, you have to say that 90% of the Christians in America during slavery wasn't really Christians, because they killed slaves, they cut babies out of black women's stomachs, and they were Christians. They went to church 2-3 times a week, no matter what they were they evangelical, Baptist, Southern Baptist, Pentecostal, whatever. So Christianity has never championed, or Judaism, or the Torah Tanakh, it's never championed for just perfect race relations. That's something I think that people talk about today, but they obviously haven't really read the Bible, or they don't understand the Bible. The Bible has never been an inclusive book when it comes to all races. There are verses that speaks about love for all people, but it's still even in the New Testament, we talk about Jews and the Gentiles, and even Jesus coming to telling them, hey, do not go to the Gentiles, but coming to the children of Israel. But these were obviously the chosen people. So if God had a chosen people from the rip, whatever you think they were, black, it don't matter. Whether you think the Jews of Israel or the original Jews is irrelevant. But he had a chosen people from the rip. So that right there shows an elitist group. And that doesn't show that there was equality all across the board. So I don't think go ahead.
I think that when the first thing you said was you talked about God is racist. Is that what you said?
No, I didn't say that. So he never showed equality. He was prejudiced towards certain people.
You say he's racist towards a certain people.
Yeah, you said that.
When you
racist. Well, I've used that term too.
Right. And so when you say that, I mean, I don't see that in the Bible, because number one is he says they are not all Israel who are Israel. Yeah, I don't see that in the Bible.
Well, hold on,
he dealt with Moses.
You're talking about Israel, right?
But hold on, let him finish his point, because the mic is a little choppy.
Go ahead, finish your point.
Go ahead.
Then I'm going to show you exactly what I'm talking about.
All right, because can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we hear you.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to kind of call in. If y'all knew how I could call in, it would have been better for me, because I would have had a cellular line than this using this internet. But this what I was gonna say. When you look at God is no respecter of persons. When he's pro-righteous before anything. In other words, he brought forth Israel. He chose them for an assignment. Not for your color or your height or your stature or none of that, because he even had them to go talk to the people of Nineveh that they repent so he won't come up against them. And Jonah didn't want to do it because Jonah was a racist. And then you had Miriam, who was a racist because Moses married a black woman, a Cushite. And so God put Miriam out the camp for that because of that. So I don't see it. And then he says in Samuel, he says, look not on his countenance, nor on his stature, nor on his appearance. He says, for man looketh on the outward appearance, but God looketh on the heart. So God is not looking on a person because of their color when he created all the colors in the first place, according to the Bible, according to the narrative of the Bible. So why would he be judging somebody on their color when he the one that brought forth all the colors? He's not doing that. He's if he says he hates somebody in the Bible, it's because of what? Because they're causing chaos. That's why he has to bring judgment on them. But even with that, he's long suffering before he even brings judgment on them. It's the sin that he really hates because they're not following his instructions. So when you say that he's hating on somebody because he's racist, I don't see that in the Bible. I don't know where you got that from.
Okay, let me ask you this. Okay, so you saying that so this was your reasoning behind God. Whoever he killed, in other words, you're saying because they were disobedient. That's basically what you're saying, G-Con? Is that what you're saying, sir?
Say that again. I didn't hear you.
You're saying that this God of the Bible, the only reason that he would kill anybody or would show prejudice towards people if they were disobedient. Is that basically what you're saying?
Yeah, this goes with what you call the law of sowing and reaping. That's another reason too. Whatever
what you mean the law of sowing? What you mean the law of sowing and reaping? What do you mean?
It's what we will call in the East what we call karma. No,
yeah, before I want to stick with the Bible now, because this law is not not a part of the 613. Is this law a part of the 613 in the Torah? Huh?
So you said six. I'm sorry again. You said what?
When you're talking about karma, you're talking about something that's not biblical. Is this sow and reaping? Is this a part of the 613, the 613 commandments of the Torah?
Right. There is no 613. That's made up.
No, there is there are 613 commandments in the Tanakh, in the whole of the Tanakh. Yes, it is. That's not made up. We can have a whole discussion on that if you like.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you.
Yeah, there is no 613. I don't know where you got that from, but well, I do know where you got it from, but it's not. That's not in the canon at all. It's more than 613 laws. But yeah, it's a part of the Tanakh and the Torah. Yeah.
Yes, it is a part of the yeah, exactly. It is a part. It's a part of the Jewish canon. It's even referred to in the Talmud and the Akkad of the 3rd century. So I don't know how you can say that's not. But that's not my point. We could do a whole nother debate on that. But the point I'm making, you said that God basically killed people because they're disobedient. That's what you're saying?
Yeah, basically.
Okay, so let me ask you this thing. Huh? What did you say? I can't hear him. What did he say?
He cut out for a little bit. He's reloading his Zoom.
Okay. He said something there. I want to make sure he get all this in.
Mic check. Look, mic check.
Mic check, G-Con.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah.
There we go. All right.
Go ahead.
G-Con back?
Yep.
Okay, so G-Con, so why did God wipe out the Amalekites in Deuteronomy? Why did he wipe out all of these tribes, Amalekites and Judges? Why did he wipe them out? He wiped them out because he wanted to get the land. Why did he wipe them out?
He wiped them out because he what? Well, he actually tells you in the Torah before they go into the land. He tells you that some of the things that these nations was doing, they was in this land, how they was doing all types of wicked things that was contrary. So he tells you what they was doing. He told you he was going to judge them prior to them going into the land. He gave them 400 years of space to repent for what they was doing. How they operate in the land with other nations.
He gave who? Who did he give 400 years? Who you talking about he gave 400 years to?
The Canaanites.
How about the Amalekites? How about the Perizzites? How about hold up, brother.
All of them.
So, he gave all of them, the parasites, the Zerulalites. There were at least 12 tribes
When I
that he
say,
wiped out. Huh?
well, actually, it was 7. It was 7. When I say the 7 to 8, when I say the Canaanites, reason why I'm saying Canaanites is because they dwelt in that vicinity of what we would
Okay.
call Canaan.
Let's just say Canaanites.
Right.
And you
Right.
justify
So
this
they
homicide. Oh, and you telling me that when God commanded the so-called Moses to kill women and children, you justify that because it's God? That's what you're telling me? And you don't tell me that that's racist. Or you don't tell me that that's tribalism.
Well, when you say that, if you're saying that he's racist based upon a color, I wouldn't say that he's racist based. He's not choosing them over color.
All right, listen.
Right. Well, hold on. Let me finish because he actually told you why in the Bible why he did those things. He says because they was doing things that was wicked. That's what he said. Like far as things that we see that's being done today, but worse things.
Well, G-Con, you know what? I think that's worse than racism. I would rather deal with modern day racism than deal with a God commanding a group of people to kill my wife and children because I don't agree with him. Or maybe I was worshiping a rock god. I think that's worse than racism any day. So for you to sit here and justify it, I think it's terrible. For you to tell me, oh, well, God is not racist. Well, he's worse than racist because he's telling these people to go to these lands, kill women and children, and he made this particularly acceptable in Judges 21 and 22 with Joshua and Caleb. Make sure none of them live. He said you can take some of the virgin women, which is peculiarly funny to me. You can take the virgin women, but all the rest of the women, if they're not virgins, don't know how they was going to figure that out. They're going to look up everybody's skirt. I don't know. But keep all the virgins to yourself and just kill all the other women and children. And you're going to justify that? That's worse than racism, brother. That's worse.
Right.
That's worse than the KKK.
You kind of mixing a lot of stuff up. Right. You kind of mixing a lot of stuff up because
no, I'm showing you where your God. I'm showing you where your God is a tribal.
Right. No. This what I'm telling you. You kind of mixing stuff up to where I can tell you kind of don't really know what's going on here. For instance, you said that, he said that he took as far as the virgins, they could take virgins, right? Number one is they couldn't take any of the woman that was of those.
Hold up, brother. Let me get the verse for you. Let me give you a Bible lesson, okay? Let me give you some Bible lessons. You think I don't know what I'm talking about?
Hold on. G-Con, did you cut out?
Can you hear me?
Did he cut out?
Yeah, finish your. We didn't get your last point. Finish.
Go ahead, G-Con.
In other words, I might have to call. You guys gotta. You set up the call-in number so I can call in because I am definitely interested in this conversation.
Well, hold on.
But I keep going in now because I'm on the show roll.
You know what? There is a call-in number, but what I'm gonna have to do is we're gonna have to set it up next time because we only got 5 minutes. Unless you want me to just.
Hey, before we go, I want to read him this verse so he can understand. Hey, G-Con, when you get off, I want you to go to Numbers 31, 17, and 18, okay?
What is it? Go ahead and read it because I'm driving. You have
Numbers 31 and 7 and 18 says God commanded Moses. He said, go wipe out all of the people, okay? Wipe out, it's straight genocide. Go wipe out. Matter of fact, let me read I'm going to read the King James Version. These are Moabites. I forgot about the Moabites. And it says, to keep the virgins to yourselves, but kill everything else. Hold on, here we go. Numbers. Okay, no, that's Exodus. I want to get that right. Okay, here we go. Hold on.
Shit, I can't believe you mentioned something from Numbers. I tried reading Numbers one time in my 30 years of living, and I think I fell asleep immediately.
My phone ain't coming up, man. You trying to do what now?
I tried to read Numbers. I was reading the Bible on my own, trying to be a good Christian growing up, and I got the Numbers and fell asleep after like page 2. I said, I can't do this. Going to hell.
But I think G-Con is making the point, though, that this is a judgment upon a wicked people, and that judgment from God is death. And if you're talking about the morality of it,
my point was,
can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
My point was, go ahead. What? Say that again, Nick?
Go ahead. No, what were you saying, G-Con? G-Con can explain his position better. Go ahead, G-Con.
Right. Okay. First of all, there's a purpose why God is doing this, and it's stated with Abraham in Genesis chapter 12 when he says, "In thee, in thy seed, shall all the nations of the earth be blessed." So God's intentions is to bless all the nations of the earth, and so He says that whatever nation curse his seed, that they will be cursed. Whatever nation bless his seed, then they will be blessed. And so, if God sees that his farther thing is to bring about nations, can you guys hear me?
Yeah,
Yeah, you're still good.
Okay. If his thing is to bring about to bless the nations, but somebody is trying to stop his purpose, and
Damn, you just cut out a little bit. Are you still there? Ah, that's it. I think he hit the wall. Well,
Yeah.
Listen, we go.
I can't.
Yeah, no, it's all right because I gotta set up. I can't set up the phone right now because we're actually
Numbers 31, 17, and 18, G-Con. I want you to go to that, though, when you get a chance.
But it is time to close the show.
All right, cool.
And I do think that we need to have this conversation again. But next time we'll set up on a phone so G-Con won't have the lag, because I know he had some great points that he wanted to bring up. But we just weren't able to.
It was all
to get
good,
it all
though.
there.
Nice talking to him.
Yeah. G-Con, we'll definitely let you come back so you can get a little bit better, be able to express yourself a little bit better, because I know it was a little troublesome with the internet connection you had. But listen, this is Nate.
You guys have this every Sunday?
Yeah,
Yes,
every
sir.
Sunday.
Okay, well, I'll be at the house this Sunday, so that'll be good if you guys have it this Sunday.
All right, cool. Well, I know. Dragnot is going to Jade's memorial this week, right?
Yeah, I'll be in
Dragnot?
Jay's Memorial this Saturday, and I got to see when my flight comes back. I think it's late as hell, so I'll try and be on my phone. Worst case scenario, so yeah, that's what I'm looking at.
Now, for those of you who don't know Jade West, she was one of the, I'll say one of the members of the community that recently passed away, and she'll be missed. She was one of the G-Man nemesis, right? She was one of the nemesis of G-Man and a whole bunch of things. But she was a Christian too, right? She was a Catholic, right?
Yeah, she was a Catholic. Oh yeah, she was a font of knowledge in the community. She's taught me many of things, and so her presence is definitely going to be missed, and it speaks volumes about her that Christians and atheists are spending a lot of time and money trying to just go to her funeral. So that if that didn't tell you about Jade, I don't know what will.
Well, listen, I think we had a spirited conversation today.
No doubt.
Thank you to G-Con for coming on, and we're definitely going to have you on as soon as possible so y'all can finish this conversation with the Emperor Atheist, because this was really, 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 really exceptional. And next week, I think we're going to be trying to maybe touch on the Second Amendment or something like that, right? We're going to really get
we're touching on that next week, man.
So, listen, for Nate Brody, Dragnot, Emperor Atheist, and for G-Con, thanks for watching, and we are going to see you next time on the Three Black Heathen Show.
Peace out.
Later.